particular storm. And again, approaching Lomita right now on 183. We're going to take a look at our hail. So hail, again, it looks to be 1 inch, and again, that's going to come right through Lomita as well. So if you're in Lomita, a couple of concerns right now. Again, you get that rotation moving towards town. You also have the hail core of the storm also about to move through town. This is inch to inch and a half hail. That's up to ping pong ball sized hail. That's what we're dealing with right now. And again, this is moving through a populated area. So of course, that's why we want to stay with you and make sure we continue to talk about this particular storm. So that's, again, what we're watching right now. There's not anything else really going on across the area. So we're going to stay with this one storm. And again, as it comes through 183 and it passes through Lomita, again, we want to make sure we keep an eye on that. So it doesn't look, based on its current direction of motion, and again, these storms have been kind of veering to the right just a little bit today. It doesn't look like it's going to go through Lampasas. Again, Lomita, that's the area that we've been watching here for the last few minutes, and that's the area we're going to keep watching here for at least the next little while. So let me go ahead and set this back so we can see the watches and warnings, and we can just get a quick recap on everything that's going on. All right, so again, this is the storm we're looking at. Right there, again, passing through Lomita as we speak. Again, tornado warning in effect. This red box right here, right along 183, that's in effect until 7 o'clock. So again, we just want to make sure we keep an eye on this because again, that is the area we've been watching right basically in the center of the storm. That's where we were seeing that tight rotation a minute ago. Again, it did look like it loosened up just a little bit, but again, something to keep an eye on. So in fact, let me go ahead and set this up in such a way that we can take a look at the overall velocity scan instead of just looking at that one little scope. All right, so again, let's take a look, figure out where that rotation is, that center of rotation. And again, it's just to the northwest of Lomita. So again, passing right along the highway, moving through town again, right here. This area right here is the area of concern. So we're going to keep an eye on that. That's where we see those reds and those greens come together. That's where we look for those areas of rotation. So again, something that we're watching here is the potential that a tornado could, be produced by this storm. Again, don't have the confirmation that one has been spotted, but again, we do have the radar indication that there is tight rotation. In fact, let me go ahead and double check with the National Weather Service to see if there is any confirmation of a tornado on the ground. Okay, and so I'm just going through my chat real quick. Okay, so they're thinking kind of right along with me. And again, we don't have a confirmed tornado with this storm, but again, the idea was that was very tight rotation a few scans ago, but here over the last 4 or 5 minutes, we are seeing it broaden out just a little bit, so that could be a good sign. But again, this area right here that's passing just through Lomita, just through the western half of town right now, that's the area of concern. That's where we would see, if we were going to see a tornado with the storm, that's the area that we'd be looking at right now. So again, if you're in Lomita, again, you should have already been in your safe space, but if you're not, that is where you need to be for at least the next several minutes here because we're going to watch this come through. And again, these storms not moving terribly fast, only moving at about 15 miles per hour off to the south-southeast. So again, it's going to take a little while for these storms to come through here. So again, waiting for the next scan. Again, tornado warning in effect for Lampasas County, including the community of Lomita, until 7 o'clock. So another 25 minutes here. We're going to make sure we stay with this and just continue to watch this area of rotation as it continues to move across the area. So let me go ahead and put a track on this so we can get an idea of where it's headed and when it should be there. So we're just going to put a quick track. And again, it's moving at about 15 miles per hour to the south-southeast. Again, as it comes through Lomita, again, that's the area that we're concerned with because that is a populated area. Past Lomita, again, most of this area of Lampasas County is fairly rural, so not a huge concern for numbers of people. But again, if you live in this area, if you live from Lomita to Narunia to the west of 183, that's the area that we're going to watch this storm continue to move through. So Narunia, Lake Victor, that's where it's headed. Again, south-southeast. And again, just to recap, we are seeing that rotation broaden out, but again, a little concerning though. It was very tight just a few scans ago. And remember, these storms can cycle down. They can also cycle back up. So that's what we're watching for to see if this tightens back up. We see those signatures of rotation once again within the storm. So again, keeping an eye on the storm here. over the next about 25 minutes or so. So we're going to continue to watch this. And again, these velocity scans are what I'm interested in because, again, it does show that tight rotation, or it did. Again, it's broadened up just a little bit. But again, still watching this area right here, again, just right in Lomita. And it's going to take a little while for these scans to come through. And also, it's going to take a little while for these storms to come through because they're only moving at about 15 miles per hour. So this is a very slow moving system, again, as it comes through the area right now. So just keeping an eye on this. We're going to go back to our reflectivity scan so you can see some other aspects of this storm. Okay, and again, there's the tornado warning that we're watching right now. So it's, again, moving through that area. Let's put it back in motion. Okay. All right. So again, right here, you can kind of see it on our reflectivity. It's a little bit more difficult. It's not as clear cut as the velocity scans, but again, just a little bit of an inflow notch right there. That's, again, this area right here, just to the west, and again, the west side of Lomita. That's the area of concern right now. Again, it continues to move off to the south, southeast, and it'll continue to do so. We're going to continue to watch this storm here for the next several minutes. Again, we are watching this storm. It does still have that tornadic potential. Again, it's not showing as clean and as intense as it was. It has diminished just a little bit, but again, a storm to keep an eye on here over the next several minutes until it expires here. But again, we're going to keep watching this. Again, just to recap, tornado warning in effect, Lampasas County, including the community of Lomita, here until 7 o'clock, so about another 23 minutes. And again, we're continuing to watch this storm. It has shown signs of some tight rotation in the past. Over the past 15 minutes or so, this storm has shown the capability of that tight rotation that we look for those tornado signatures. Again, no confirmed tornadoes on the ground that we've seen about. Again, we're just going based on our radar indications, and this radar indication did show tight rotation before, again, as it approached Lomita. It's now kind of moving through Lomita as we speak right now. Primarily, it looks like going to be on the west side of town. That's going to be the area of concern right now. But again, continuing to watch this storm, tracking just to the south, southeast through Lomita. And again, it should miss Lampasas. It's probably going to cut off just to the west of Lampasas, moving more towards Narunia than to Lake Victor, as we showed you on our scan before. So that's not the only storm of concern either. If you look just to the south of San Saba in San Saba County, we're showing a storm that's what could be showing a pretty significant hail core right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at this whole storm. Okay, and again, you can see that rotation now moving just to the west-southwest of Lomita. So again, if you're on the west-southwest side of Lomita, again, that's the area where we're seeing, again, that tight rotation, those reds and greens coming together. Want to take a look at the hail as well inside the storm. Again, south of San Saba there, along the highway there. Again, we're seeing hail in the nearly 2-inch range. So very large hail falling out of that storm as well. So again, a hail threat and a potential tornado threat with this storm right now. Again, as it continues to move through parts of Lampasas and San Saba counties. Put it back in motion. All right. And one thing that you'll notice here, as it comes south of Lomita, it is continuing to kind of veer to the right just a little bit. That's been the general trend of motion with this storm here over the past hour and a half or so. It was moving basically due east. It is wrapped around now, traveling almost to the southwest right now. Anytime we see these sorts of motions in a storm, one of two things happening. Either it's sliding along the cold front, or when we get these right-moving storms, that's when they tend to get more powerful, and that's what we're seeing happen with this storm right now. So again, something to keep an eye on. All right, so again, continue to watch the storm. Sorry, Bailey Bates just came in doing double duty for us. I very much appreciate that, telling us that she just got a phone in Lampasas County, and again, no confirmation of any tornado with this storm. Again, the warning here is still showing on our radar screens, but there is some indication that maybe this warning is set to be expired here very soon. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rotation inside the storm once again with our velocity scan. I want to see what's happening within this storm. Okay, and again, that's the hail. Hail getting diminished with this storm. So I'm actually showing some fairly decent rotation again. Now, as the storm moves south out of Lomita into the more rural areas, still showing that tight rotation. So again, now that it has moved through Lomita, again, the threat to the town of Lomita may have passed now at this point, but again, we're still watching this tight rotation. So here's what we're going to do. Now that it has moved out of Lomita, we're going to step off for just a couple of minutes. We'll be back, and we're going to keep this going on our live stream as well on 6 Plus and KCENTV.com. But again, if this continues and it continues to move towards more populated areas, we will be back. But for now, we're going to step away for just a second, but we'll be back. All right, thank you for staying with us on 6 Plus and on KCENTV.com. We are continuing to track this tornado warning that's been in effect for Lampasas County for the last several minutes. Again, it is now south of the town. The area of concern, the area where we would see rotation, is now moved south of Lomita. And again, it is kind of off of Highway 183. Again, tornado warning still in effect, but again, out of the populated area of Lomita. And again, continues to track off to the south. The storm, again, has been veering off to the south-southwest all day long. Again, right now moving basically due south out of Lomita. So that's what we're watching right now. So we're just going to continue to watch this storm, showing signs of rotation. And that rotation's actually tightened up again the last couple of scans. Still not seeing in any of our chats any confirmation of a tornado on the ground. Again, just seeing that tight rotation within this storm. So that's what we're concerned about. So let's take a look, put all this in motion here real quick. Again, moving off to the south-southeast right now at about 15 miles per hour, not moving very quickly at all. So that's what we're dealing with. All right, so again, continue to watch. All right, if y'all are still with me in the back, let's go ahead and jump back onto television. Took a break there so I could catch my breath, but again, yeah, this storm still has me a little concerned. All right, thanks for staying with us again this evening. Now, I jumped off for the air for just a couple of minutes there as the storm came out of Lomita. But again, over the last couple of scans, we're watching this storm, and it looks like it's trying to tighten back up on us again. So I want to stay with you here. Again, this is another 14 minutes until 7 o'clock. That's when this tornado warning is set to expire. But for now, again, still showing those signs of rotation that we look for within a storm. So if you're south of Lomita, if you're in these rural areas west of 183, this is the time that we need to be in that safe area. And in fact, if you're in western Lampasas County right now, again, make sure you're in that safe area because this storm continues to roll through. And again, we're still seeing those signs of rotation. Haven't seen a confirmed tornado. Bailey Bates actually talked to Lampasas County a little bit earlier. They have not heard any reports. Our National Weather Service chat not showing any confirmation of a tornado on the ground. However, we are seeing that tight rotation with this storm. It's also redeveloping a little bit of that hail core there as it comes out of Lomita. So just south of Lomita, we're still seeing that potential for hail as well. So again, not only a tornado threat, but also a hail threat. And you can kind of see some of the inflow coming into this storm. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you again that velocity scan. We always talk about the velocity scan, and that's basically just showing us the wind inside the storm. So I want to take a look at that real quick. We're going to pause this, and we're going to pull up our scope, and we're going to look inside at that again. So these are those signs that I look for. Again, if you're south of Lomita, if you live in these rural communities, this is the time to take shelter because again, we're seeing, again, the greens and those reds. Whenever these come together, those are those signs of rotation. Now, this isn't the strongest couplet I've ever seen, but again, we do show signs of rotation here just south of Lomita, just west of 183. This storm system continues to push off to the southeast right now. So again, something we're going to need to watch here for the next several minutes because again, this is still showing those signs of rotation. In fact, our last couple of scans, it looks a little bit tighter than it did the previous few scans before that. So again, these storms have a tendency to cycle up and cycle down. So it cycled down just a little bit as it was going through Lomita, but now that it's come out of town, again, we're starting to watch it cycle back up, maybe seeing that rotation tighten up just a little bit. And again, that's that area right there, just south of town of Lomita that we're concerned with right now. And again, it pushes off to the south, southeast. These storms are not moving very fast. That's why this is kind of a lingering process. The storm is only moving at about 15 miles per hour. So it's out ahead of that cold front we've been watching. That's coming through. And as that cold front pushes through, again, these storms really can't outrun the cold front here very much. So again, if the front's moving very slowly, of course, the storms are going to move equally as slowly through the area. So again, about 15 miles per hour to the south, southeast. If you live west of Lampasas, if you're between Lampasas, Highway 183, and the Colorado River, again, this storm is kind of moving through that general region. So if you live in that region of Lampasas County, again, take shelter because now is the time because the storm is moving towards your area. So again, towards Narunia and then by Lake and then to Lake Victor there by about 7 o'clock and then 7:20. So that's the track this storm is taking. Let's go ahead and again take a look at our reflectivity scans just to show you where the strongest parts of the storm are. Obviously the areas of rotation are there with those red and green colors are coming together on a velocity scan, but the storm itself, again, also capable of producing hail as well. And you can see the hail core just south of Lomita. That's where we would expect to see hail, if any, is being produced by this storm. And again, kind of watching these two storms set to try and kind of cannibalize each other earlier, but they are kind of holding together, holding their own here, one next to the other. So again, a very strong storm in San Saba County right now, but not seeing the rotation that we were seeing with the storm that came through Lomita. So, and in fact, it looks like it's starting to ramp back up again in terms of the precipitation, the hail. So let's take a look inside there at what we have going on. Yep, and the National Weather Service right there along with me, right here in the chat, saying that the updraft in the storm has re-strengthened, and there has been corresponding tightening of the rotation. Basically what that means is the rising motion of the storm is very strong, and of course we're seeing the rotation as well very strong in the storm as well. So again, taking a look, I want to look at the hail real quick inside the storm. Okay, and that's another indicator of updraft strength is, again, the size of the hail. And again, we're up to about 2 inches here south of Lomita. This is not in Lomita, this is south of Lomita. But again, hail of 2 inches possible just south of town, just to the west of Highway 183. And then again, taking a look at the rotation, because that's the part that has us concerned right now. And again, what we call a couplet. That's where we see these reds and greens come together kind of like this, right? So what you're seeing right here is, again, right here, the greens coming towards the radar, the reds moving away from the radar, and again, that's what we look for as an indication of rotation. And again, this storm kind of hugging 183 right now, just to the west of 183, really. It's going to be just off the highway, so that's where we're looking. And again, it continues to move off to the south-southeast. It doesn't look like it's going to cross 183. It looks like it's going to stay on the west side and just continue to move kind of right along the highway there. Towards Lampasas, it looks like, our hope here is, assuming the storm stays on its current track, it misses Lampasas by a few miles to the west. So that's what we're kind of watching here. It moved again through Lomita about 15 minutes ago, and now we're watching it as it continues down 183 if it's going to go through Lampasas. So let's put all this in motion and kind of take a look at which direction it's headed. Okay, so back in motion. And you can see the general storm motion is to the south. So again, we're watching it again, track down 183, just to the west of 83. It's staying west, it's moving south, kind of south-southeast right now. So that's, again, our concern for Lampasas. It looks like it should miss just to the west of Lampasas. But again, if you're in Lampasas, now is the time to start preparing for this storm, because again, even if the center of rotation misses to the west, still a hail core developing in the storm that's capable of 2-inch hail. So again, if you're in Lampasas, start preparing, moving towards those safe spaces. Inside the house, again, those lower floor, those rooms on the lower floors, and again, interior of the house away from windows. And again, it's Texas, I know, but if you have a basement, obviously that's the best place to be. Storm shelter, of course. And again, just some of the characteristics of this storm. Again, we're seeing just a little bit of inflow right there. And again, that's one of those things we look for in a supercell. And you can see the tornado warning has been extended, and it does now include the town of Lampasas. So again, if you're in Lampasas, I just mentioned it just about a minute ago, if you're in Lampasas, it's time to start preparing for this storm. Making your way towards your safe space, that interior room, lowest floor, and again, if you have a basement or a storm shelter, that's the place to be, because again, this storm is kind of jogging to the southeast. Like I mentioned before, it looks like it wants to stay west of 183, but again, even if it stays west of 183, it is going to come through at least the western side of town. So now we're watching Lampasas as kind of the next marker in the path of this storm. So keep that in mind. Let's take a look, see how much longer it should take for this, again, very slow moving system to get through Lampasas. So again, it's moving at about 15 miles per hour. Want to track it down to the south over the next hour.
You just extended until 7:30.
Yep, and now it includes Lampasas. So. All right, so there you go. So this is what we're looking at. Challenger High School by 7:20, Lampasas by 7:20. That's the timing on this storm right now. Again, the rotation is going to be just a little bit to the west of the hail core. The hail core, though, moving right down 183. And again, about 20 more minutes, about 27 more minutes there. We expect this to move through Lampasas. So again, we're going to keep watching it because, again, anytime it gets towards our more populated areas, obviously that becomes a major concern, especially when it's traveling basically down a roadway. In this case, a U.S. Highway 183. That's where this storm is moving right now. So again, continues to move off to the southeast at about 15 miles per hour, moving through Lampasas here in the next 25 minutes or so. So again, make sure if you're in Lampasas, be in that safe space. Again, lowest floor, interior, away from windows. And again, if you have a storm shelter, that obviously is the ideal place to be in these situations. So keep that in mind. Now, again, the rotation of this storm is obviously of utmost concern, but the secondary concern that, again, we've been dealing with these storms all evening is the idea of very large hail. And on last check, this storm had a potential radar indicated hail core of about 2 inches in diameter. So let's take a look. And it does look on that scan, it doesn't look quite as impressive on the velocity scan. but it is still showing signs of rotation. So obviously it is still of concern. Okay, so again, let's check the hail core. Looks like it's diminished just a little bit, but again, not by much. Still looking at nearly 2 inches of hail, 1.5 inches, so ping pong ball sized hail. And again, the rotation staying west of the highway, this hail core right along the highway. So I mentioned it earlier, if you have plans on this Thursday evening, now is not the time to be driving down Highway 183. Again, as this storm continues down 183, hail and rotation being shown. I don't want to say tornado because, again, we don't have confirmation of a tornado on the ground. But again, we have these radar indications, the velocity scans I keep showing you, the wind scans that I keep showing you, show us where that rotation could be. If there is a tornado, that is where it would be. It's those areas of tightest rotation that we look for. So again, let's go back to our velocity scan and take another look at the winds inside this storm. Okay. All right, there we go. So again, just to recap, tornado warning, including Lomita, until 7 o'clock. Storm is now past Lomita, so that should be the area of concern should be past Lomita. But now that tornado warning has been extended to include Lampasas, the town of Lampasas, and it expires at 7:30. So again, we're going to stay with you, keep watching the storm. If there is a tornado involved with the storm, which again, we do not have confirmation of that, we have our radar indications. We're looking right here, this area, basically right along 183. So I told you this storm was a little bit west of 183. It's kind of tracked to the east just a little bit. So again, looking right here. These are the areas I would be most concerned with in terms of rotation. If we were looking for a tornado, this is the area that I would be looking. So again, right along 183, basically traveling right down 183, hail and potential tornado, the two threats here that we're tracking with this storm. And again, straight line winds as well. We could be seeing straight line winds up to about 60 miles per hour with these storms as well. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And again, this is really the only storm, last check, the only storm we have to worry about in this area is right there in Lampasas County. Let's take a wider look just to kind of see and make sure that is still the case. Okay, and yeah, you can see that the area of concern still remains in Lampasas County. Again, there is a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of San Saba County, but again, we're not seeing the same type of rotation there. We do not have a tornado warning on that storm. So we're going to stay with our Lampasas storm for about the next half hour here and see where it tracks, how it tracks. In fact, let's go ahead and put a track on it. Again, moving to the south, southeast at about 15 miles per hour. Again, 722, that's kind of what we're looking at. So 720, 722, that time frame is when we expect the storm to be in Lampasas. So again, about another 15 to 20 minutes, that's what we're looking at in terms of time frame. So again, if you haven't already, if you are in Lampasas, now is definitely the time to move into that safe space. Again, an interior room on the lower floor, away from any windows, or a storm shelter if you have it. That's where we need to be. And the last place that we need to be, of course, is on Highway 183 right now because the storm is tracking basically right down 183. So keep that in mind. If you have plans, delay them because, again, we have a very powerful, potentially dangerous storm, again, moving right down US 183. It moved through Lomita. It's now moving towards Lampasas. So again, we're keeping an eye on this storm here for the next half hour or so, see if this tornado warning does get extended or if it's allowed to expire at 7:30, but we'll stay with you and continue tracking this storm. So just to recap, this storm has been in existence since about 4:45. It went severe at 4:45. That was back up in Hamilton and Mills County. It was tracking initially to the east, has turned south, southeast, moved all the way down through Mills County, now moving through Lampasas County. It's moved about 3/4 of the way through Lampasas County. Again, now it is approaching the town of Lampasas. So that's why we're keeping an eye on this, because it is moving right towards you. If you're in Lampasas, this storm is moving your direction. So that's why we want to make sure we keep you very aware of what's happening with this storm. So we're going to take another look at our velocity scan, see where that rotation center is. And of course, the previous tornado warning that was for northern Lampasas County, of course, has been allowed to expire because the storm has moved beyond that point. Again, that's where we're looking. You can see it right there on our radar scan. Anytime those reds and greens come together, those are the areas of concern because that is where we would be seeing rotation. Again, a little bit broader. This isn't as tight as it was at one point in time. At one point in time, this was a very tight-looking rotation. It does seem to have muddied up just a little bit here. So again, we're kind of seeing some broader rotation, not necessarily as tight as it was, but again, we still have this area of rotation right along Highway 183. That's where we're living with this storm right now, is right along 183. In fact, it's moving basically right down the highway. That's why if you were in Lomita, we were talking about taking cover before. If you're in Lampasas, that's why we're talking about taking cover now, because it is moving right down Highway 183. So keeping a close eye on this. I do want to put it in motion for you. So again, we're going to take off the velocity scan, go back to what we call the reflectivity scan, and we're going to put this in motion, kind of show you its general motion. I've been saying it's moving down 183. And it's not doing it very quickly, only at about 15 miles per hour. So that's why this is such a long-lived situation, because this is a slow-moving storm as it continues to move through Lampasas County. All right. So these storm motions have been interesting, and the reason is, again, we have the cold front behind it. Again, it started to get very powerful as it made a right turn earlier. Now it's kind of veering back more to the southeast right now. That does not mean it's weakening. I don't want you to think because one is true, the opposite also must be true. It just means, again, it is moving from Lomita basically straight to Lampasas because of that last directional change. Now moving basically right down Highway 183. And again, it looked for a second like these two cells might kind of cannibalize each other, kind of merge into one bigger cell. That did not happen. They have stayed separate. And again, severe thunderstorm warning still on this storm out in San Saba County as well. It is not by any means a weak storm. It's just not showing those same rotation signs. Hail up to 2 inches. This storm has a history of those hailstones up to about 2 inches. Again, ping pong to golf ball sized hail there. And again, this Lampasas storm, again, still dropping hail about 1.5 inches. Again, that ping pong ball sized hail. But again, the bigger concern right now is still that rotational signature within the storm. It does look weaker. It looks more broad. Doesn't look as tight as it did before. So when you think about the structure of a storm. Okay. All right, so we're going to jump off air, and we're going to continue on 6 Plus and KCE and TV.com. All right, so again, tracking the storm, again, as it continues to move down Highway 183 towards Lampasas. And again, concern with this storm, obviously, as you would gather from a tornado warning, is the fact that we are seeing signs of rotation within the storm. And again, that's right here, again, right along Highway 183, again, moving towards Lampasas. Now, the good news is, again, this does not look nearly as broad as it did before, as tight as it did before. It looks more broad, and it looks a little less dangerous, a little less surface level, a little bit more possibly elevated in the clouds. So again, the structure of a storm looks like this. So it's miles wide, of course, up in the storm. A tornado itself, of course, even at its largest, even if this was the world's largest tornado, it's only about 1.5 miles wide. So when you talk about broad rotation, the entire storm can be rotating, but you don't have enough of that rotational energy. You don't have tight enough rotation at the base of the cloud to produce a tornado that goes all the way to the ground. So that's what we mean when we talk about broad rotation versus tight rotation. Seeing some stronger winds, though, near that area, that center of rotation. Again, this storm has a history not only of those 2 inch to 1.5 inch sized hailstones, but it also has a history of 60+ mile per hour winds. So again, anywhere you see those brighter greens, again, strong winds, a component of the storm as well. So again, continue to watch this moving down Highway 183. I want to thank everybody for staying with us on our 6 Plus stream, and of course on KCE and TV.com as well. Again, this tornado warning still in effect until 7:30, and again, that's in the next roughly 25 minutes or so. And again, it's moving towards Lampasas down Highway 183. So again, something definitely for us to keep an eye on here. I'm going to step off. We're going to manipulate the radar just a little bit, show you a couple of things here. So first off, obviously, is our velocity scan. So we're going to take that out. Again, our reflectivity scan. This storm has held together remarkably well, and again, for the last couple of hours or so. So as we look at the storm, again, tornado, one concern. Again, no confirmed tornadoes on the ground. However, the rotation within the storm has held together for this entire time. So again, something that we've been keeping an eye on because of that. Now it looks like that hail core has weakened just a little bit in this last scan. But again, these storms have this tendency to, once again, sort of cycle down, cycle up, cycle down, cycle up. So let's go ahead and take a look at our hail core within this storm. And again, it does not look nearly as large as it did before. And again, about 1.3 inches. Again, that's just a little bit less than a ping pong ball. All right, back in motion, and you'll see again the storm does continue to track down 183. And now it's, again, these motions have been a little unusual today, and again, this is out along the leading edge of a cold front. It does look like it's jogging a little bit east as well. Again, let's take a look at that velocity because, again, that has been our biggest concern with this storm. And again, it doesn't look super tight, the rotation doesn't, but again, seeing some strong winds near that center of rotation. Again, we have two different types of rotation that we talk about. You have your tight surface level rotation, again, at the base of the cloud. That's when you get the wall cloud, that's when you get the funnel cloud, that's when you get the tornado. We also have very broad rotation. So basically, as the radar is kind of shot into the storm, what happens is it's not only moving out, it's also moving up. Again, radar beams travel at an angle. So what happens is you get some surface information, but you also get a lot of mid-level information with those radar images as well. So that's what we're looking at right here. Again, some probably broad level rotation way up in the storm right now. Not seeing that tight rotation we were seeing before, but again, still a dangerous situation because this storm has shown a history of cycling up, cycling back down, producing 2-inch hail, 60+ mile-per-hour winds, and at one point, a couple of those radar scans showed very tight rotation within the storm. So those are the things that we're dealing with right now. Again, if you're in Lampasas County and if you're in the town of Lampasas, again, your safe spot is where you want to be because this storm is traveling, again, straight down Highway 183. All right, so this most recent scan, it looks very muddy now. Okay, we're not seeing that tight rotation we were seeing before. Now we're looking at very broad rotation. So whenever we have that situation, again, we might be losing a little bit of strength here. We might be losing a little bit of that updraft. Some of that rotational energy might be kind of falling out of the storm just a little bit. So that's what we're dealing with. So that could be good news. Again, the storm, though, has a history of kind of cycling up and cycling back down. So I'm going to go confer about a couple things. I will be back on air here just in a second. All right, want to thank you again for staying with us on our live stream on 6 Plus and KCENTV.com. We are still tracking this thunderstorm. The tornado warning has been allowed to expire. In fact, the National Weather Service expired it before 7:30. So we are now looking at a situation where this is a severe thunderstorm warning, not showing that tight rotation that prompted the severe thunderstorm, the tornado warning in the first place. Still seeing some broad level rotation within the storm, but at this point we transition to a little bit more of a hail and wind threat. And again, even the hail threat has diminished significantly. If you are north of Lampasas along Highway 183, again, we're looking at hail under an inch at this point. But again, this storm does have a history of cycling up and down, so we'll continue to watch it, of course, over the next couple of hours.